what were your career goals like to do
Mm,
with mathematics? And like just forget the teaching part for now because we
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
know that that's
yeah.
what you're in right now, but just like in the in the field of math, what would be a typical mathematician's goals?
So, I mean, it really depends on. I think that people go into graduate school and come out of graduate school with sometimes different things.
Okay,
So,
I can see
say
that.
you're doing, and I think honestly, this conversational answer for math, but I don't think it's necessarily all that different if you're doing a physics PhD as well. So, one goal that you might have is to be a research professor. And I think I might have had this goal to a degree, but maybe not, wasn't actively thinking about it all that
Hmm.
much. And so, uh, really, what that would mean is that you were wanting to be able to, like, you were enjoying the research you were doing in your PhD, and you wanted to be able to continue having a space where you were doing pure research, you were collaborating, you were going and speaking at conferences, publishing papers, having graduate students, and you wanted to go on and get a faculty position in a research mathematics. So that's one career path that people could take. And another career path they could take, and in mathematics this is not uncommon, is you say, I have a math PhD. This is a proof that I am sort of quantitatively literate and intelligent at some level. I can tie my shoes. And I'm going to leave mathematics a specific field, but I'm going to be, oh, who knows, some sort of data modeling for TELUS. I don't know what it could be, right?
Hmm.
The point is you go off and be and work in the industry. Now, to me, I had always liked academia and was more under the impression that I would go after my PhD and maybe do a postdoc and be on the track to try to eventually get a tenure track position. Um, it just became clear to me that I really wanted to get that to be a tenure track teaching position and not a research position as time went on. Um, and in many ways, these things just sort of level up. Like, what is a postdoc? Well, a postdoc's kind of like doing a PhD. Maybe the expectations have changed and the timelines have changed and the supports have changed, but it's sort of the same.
Wait, they're
But
different things.
Mhm.
Wait. A postdoc and a PhD are different. I thought that's the same thing.
Yeah.
no, there are different
No.
steps. So after you got a PhD, if you wanted to
Oh,
continue in
so postdoc
academia
is after PhD.
after PhD,
Oh my, so PhD isn't even like the last frontier. Like there's
oh, that's
more.
the bottom of the ladder. Come on now.
What? That's
No, I
crazy.
get a little bit. It's in the middle. So most people would not say you got a PhD from the University of Toronto. The chances are you would not be hired as at the University of Toronto as a professor the next year. That'd be very, very rare.
Okay.
I actually weirdly had a 1 year contract as a professor right after that sounds weird, but that's only because it was a teaching position. And sort of it was called a professor, but in many ways it was sort of analogous to what most people do with this postdoc, which is a temporary position at a different university for the most part, where you go off after your PhD, you're working with new people, and you're sort of like continuing the projects of your PhD, as well as starting to work on new things with these new collaborators at this new university, and trying to think more broadly about like what would a 5 or 10 year research program look like. And it's that program that I will use after I've gone through 1 or 2 postdocs to apply for the tenure track position.
Wow.
Maybe if you're exceptional, you can skip this, but that's the standard.
Oh
path.
wow, so they're just very different things. Okay. Well, that's
And they are different. I mean, you'd be paid more, for example, as a postdoc than a graduate student by a large amount, and less by a large amount than if you were a professor. So it's sort of it's a very sort of middle ground type of position.
so postdoc would be so is postdoc the last step or is there something even more than that?
Yeah, a postdoc, and then you would probably, if you were going in the standard track, then you would apply to be an assistant professor.
So this is all obviously in the track of academics, right?
Exactly.
This is all in the track of academics. So
That's right.
so I guess a natural other question would be, did you have so I guess as you already mentioned, you were always intrigued with academics, but if you had to describe your ideal job before you got into the academics field, like frame of mind, if you had to describe an ideal job in the field of mathematics, what would that be for you? This is very obviously subjective.
Oh, I don't know. I say my current job is kind of ideal right now.
Well, that's perfect.
I feel very lucky. The reason I say this is that, so one of the beliefs that I have is that universities should have very high quality teaching positions. So what I mean by high quality is, for example, it's tenure track, so you can go in and get tenure. and that they're held at sort of an equal level of respect and responsibility to any research professor that you would have as well. The difference would just be that the ratio would be shifted. You'd be doing, so in my case, my responsibility is 70% of my time is focused on teaching, and 10% of time is focused on scholarship, and 20% on service, whereas it would be a bit more equal if you were in a research stream. So my belief is this is a very, very valuable type of position because it lets people try and really focus to be the best professors they can for the primarily undergraduate students, but sometimes graduate students as well. And there's been a movement over the course of the last 10 years to start accepting this. And a lot of the big Canadian universities and in the United States have started to increase the number of what I'll call high quality teaching jobs. This is in contrast to what are sometimes called sessional positions or lecturer positions, which are often temporary, underpaid, not a long-term contract, all of those types of things. So it's important to have this sort of high quality thing, and you attract, in theory, high quality people that do a good job. So they're rare. Only a couple in Canada become available in a couple of years. And so I applied to a good number of these. And I think the University of Victoria's one is pretty much ideal at really respecting and valuing teaching, putting it into a good position, having a bit of scholarship, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I probably wouldn't have given that answer, which I think is where you're kind of going with it, if I was finishing my undergrad. But honestly, I wouldn't think about it all that much. I mean, this might seem silly, but getting a PhD was kind of the path of least resistance, in the sense of like, what else was I going to do? Get a real job? That's not like I just been doing math and physics for 4 years. And so there wasn't like, I'm going to go and be a banker motivation. And so it was like, well, I like what I'm doing. I'm doing well at what I'm doing. I'm going to continue doing it. And so, I don't think I really started thinking about the future until halfway through my PhD or something like that.
So, apart from academics, is there like again, this is like not to seem, there's just a very general question because I'm just inquisitive. Fine. Like, is there a path that you can take not relating to academics that is still like with your mathematics degree? Because like, as we were talking about, like in higher levels of mathematics, it does become, extremely abstract and it's all just in your head. So I would assume that all of that is relating to academics. Like, you would be able to use it in an academic field. Where would that be applicable in, like, I don't know, like another job or something like that, like apart from academics?
A lot of people do go into industry and they take their skills. I mean, we should also recognize a lot of math is not pure math. A lot of math is applied math. A lot of math is statistics. A lot of math connects to data science and many other different fields. But even if you had gone in and you've done if I had taken my PhD, okay, I can't actually imagine a job that I could use the actual like subject matter of my PhD in. But I think there's plenty of jobs where you could take the analytic skills and make a case that they should hire you, and they do. So a great example is I don't know if you know this, you remember in 2008, there was a bubble in the American housing market that caused a big problem for the whole world, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was also another bubble. I'll claim it's equally important. There was a bubble in Bay Street and Wall Street hiring PhD mathematicians. Because it used to be that there was a large number of sort of people that would go, and it still is today, but there just happened to be a little bit of a dip for a little bit there. A sort of quantitative analysis. You try to hire the best and the brightest, and you're going to go and be working on all these weird pricing models and blah, 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 blah. And rather infamously, one of these models was sort of misinterpreted by the banks and went quite badly in 2008. And anyway, so this is just an example of a lot of people could go off and do that. And I know several colleagues who got a PhD in math, and they're just working in industry, and all their jobs are all different, but they all sort of make sense that you'd be like, oh yeah, someone with a math PhD would do great in this particular job.